Hello and welcome. My name is Biagio Mazza and I'm the Pastoral Associate here at St. Sabina in Belton, Missouri. And I'm here to welcome you to another Do You Know question from our Do You Know series. And today's Do You Know question is, do you know why the Feast of Ascension and Pentecost are a good way to really celebrate the end of the Easter season? In order to understand the Feast of the Ascension and Pentecost, it's good to go back to the sequence in the Gospels. The sequence of 40 and 50 days after Easter for the Ascension and Pentecost are actually come from the Acts of the Apostles, written by Luke, who also wrote the Gospel of Luke. But when we look at the Gospels themselves, in the Gospels, Ascension is usually, when it's mentioned, is usually associated with the Easter Sunday. There is no break in the sequence of 40 or 50 days. As a matter of fact, in the Gospel of John, Passion, death, resurrection, ascension, and Pentecost all are one event. The dynamics of the Paschal mystery for John are all in one event that's broken up, and all are celebrated in many ways at the resurrection, at the crucifixion of Jesus and his resurrection, even with the gift of the Spirit being given on Easter Sunday. However, Luke, when he writes his gospel, he ends his gospel with the Ascension. And the way the Ascension is used there, and by the way, the Ascension in Luke's gospel, it happens on Easter Sunday in his gospel. And the way he uses the Ascension in his gospel is it brings closure to the ministry of Jesus. Right? But when we go to the Acts of the Apostle, also written by Luke, he extends the Ascension for 40 days after Easter, in which Jesus is around preparing his disciples for their ministry. So the way Ascension is used in the Acts of the Apostles is as a springstone, as springing off of the Jesus ministry, bringing a closure to that, but now using the Ascension as the beginning of the ministry of the disciples. Now, the disciples are in fear and trembling because of many of the things that happened during the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus, and even fear of some of the Jews. They're in fear and trembling, and they're in a room praying and anticipating the gift of the Spirit that Jesus has promised them when he ascended. And as they're waiting and praying, from what we know according to the Acts of the Apostles, there are actually 120 people gathered together, including men, women, and children, and even the mother of Jesus is there, Mary. And when as they pray, the Spirit descends on them, and that Spirit is in forms of tongues and fire and so on, and it lands on all of them, and they're all gifted by the Spirit. Not just 12, but all the people there. And what is the role of the Spirit in the lives of the disciples as they go out and preach the word? Well, first, the Spirit helps them move from fear and trembling to a kind of a boldness, a removal of fear, and they can boldly go out and preach the word to all that would be willing to listen and open to the story of Jesus. So that's one first impact of the Spirit. The other impact of the Spirit on all those who it descends upon is the impact of being able to speak a language that is understandable to everyone, the language of the Spirit. And as we see the description in the Acts of the Apostles, Pentecost is a language event. Everyone is able to hear. All the people from different parts of the world are able to hear the apostles and the disciples speaking in language that all could understand. And so it's often important to ask, what is that language of the Spirit? It's the language of love, care, and concern for one another, that no matter what your language, what your background or culture, everyone can understand. So the Feast of Pentecost is the feast of the birthday of the church, if you want, the birthday of the disciples of Jesus who are called to go out and proclaim boldly and with a certain power, a power and a gift to speak and act in a language that everybody can understand. We are all called to this. And when we are baptized, we receive that same spirit, that same boldness, and that same gift to speak the language of love to all that we encounter. And this is the language and power of the Spirit that is gifted to us whenever we are baptized, confirmed, and receive Eucharist, the sacraments of initiation. So why is this an appropriate way to end the Easter season, both the Ascension and Pentecost? Because they are feasts that speak about what we are about as disciples of the Lord. They are feasts that bring us the gifts of the Spirit, speaking boldly, speaking a language that everybody can understand, and also be able to continue the mission of Jesus in our day and time. The rest of the liturgical year from Easter on is focused on living out that gift, those gifts that the Spirit has given us to speak boldly about the Lord, to witness to the Lord, and to do it with love, care, and concern for others. So I hope this has helped you in kind of giving you a little understanding of how Ascension and Pentecost are really appropriate ways to bring closure to the Easter season and projects us into, once again, the season of ordinary time in which we consistently reflect and recall our mission to speak boldly and witness to the Lord, and to proclaim that language in a clear and loud voice, proclaim the language that all can understand, the language care, concern, love, and to be the kinds of people that Jesus modeled for us. So I hope this has been informative for you, and that you will return once again to another Do You Know series where we'll explore further what we are called to as Christian disciples. Thank you very much.